Let me tell you a story about a janitor who changed the world. In 1962, when President John F. Kennedy visited NASA, he noticed that there was a janitor carrying a broom. Kennedy asked him, "What are you doing?" The janitor smiled and said, "Well, Mr. President, I'm helping put a man on the moon." He wasn't a rocket scientist or an astronaut, he swept floors. And yet he saw his work as part of something bigger. And that's the thing about an ordinary life. It's never really ordinary, is it? Not if you choose to see the meaning behind it. In a world filled with chasing fame, fortune, and standing out, living a quiet, ordinary life seems almost rebellious. And yet, some of the most profound joys come not from chasing the extraordinary, but from embracing the beauty of the ordinary. But here's a question. What if the life that you already have is exactly the one that you were meant to live? Hey everyone, this is Tons. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I like to talk about all things related to motivation, self-development, personal growth, and productivity. And today we're diving into the topic of what does it mean to really live an ordinary life? And why it might just be the greatest adventure of all. There's an old Japanese fable about a stonecutter. Each day he would carve some stone under the scorching sun, tired, exhausted, and dreaming of a better life. One day he wished to be a wealthy merchant, and poof, his wish came true. He lived a life that was wealthy, filled with abundance and power. But soon he became bored, and he envied the king. And so he wished to become the king. He had all this wealth and power as the king, but soon he realized that no matter what he did, the sun always made him feel uncomfortable. And so he wished to become the sun itself, powerful and blazing. Yet one day a simple cloud blocked his rays. And so he became the cloud, drifting freely, until the wind came and pushed him away. Frustrated, he wished to be the wind. And so he became the wind, but no matter how hard he blew, he couldn't move the mountains. And so he became the mountains, powerful and mighty, unmoved by the sun, the clouds, or the wind. But one day he felt the sharp sting of a chisel chipping away at him. It was a stonecutter. And at that moment he realized something profound, that the life that he had was enough after all. And the lesson here is that chasing something greater can sometimes lead us right back to where we started. Sometimes the most meaningful life is the one that we already have. But let me ask you something. How much of your life are you spending wishing you were somebody else? Let's talk about a man, an ordinary man who never conquered any kingdoms. His name is Norman Borlaug. You've probably never heard of him. But his ordinary work in agriculture, improving crop yields, has saved over 1 billion lives from starvation. Borlaug was born on a small farm in Iowa during the Great Depression. He knew the hardship of hunger firsthand, which inspired him to study plant science. In the 1940s, he developed disease-resistant wheat varieties capable of thriving in harsh conditions. This became the foundation of what we now call the Green Revolution. His innovations transformed agriculture in countries like Mexico, India, and Pakistan, regions once plagued by famine. He spent decades working quietly in fields and in labs and focused solely on feeding people who would never know his name. In 1970, he was finally awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his work. But if you asked him, he would say that he was just a farm boy trying to make a difference. Here's the truth. Ordinary work done consistently can ripple through the world in extraordinary ways. What if your ordinary life touches more people than you could ever imagine? And what if the work that you think is small is actually changing someone else's world? Now I know what you might be thinking. Well, isn't an ordinary life boring? But even the ancient myths speak of finding meaning in the mundane. Take the well-known Greek myth of Sisyphus, cursed by the gods to roll a boulder up a hill only for it to roll right back down for eternity. On the surface, it seems like pointless suffering. Who would want a life like this? But philosopher Albert Camus had a different take on this. He believed that if we embrace the absurdity of life with its ups and downs and its joys and happiness, that even Sisyphus can find happiness. It's not about escaping routine, but it's about finding the purpose within it. What if joy isn't found in escaping the ordinary, but in learning to love it? And here's a deeper question. What if the meaning of life is hidden in the very tasks that you take for granted? I have a whole video I did about finding your purpose and why it's so important to find your why in life. I'm going to link it for you here, so please go and watch it. Think about the last time you laughed uncontrollably with a friend, or the quiet warmth of sipping a hot cup of tea on a rainy afternoon, or reading a book in a quiet corner of your house. These moments aren't flashy, they won't make headlines, and probably won't make Instagram reels. But aren't they everything? A parent tucking their child into bed, a fresh cup of coffee in the morning, watching the sun paint the sky at dusk. These are the invisible threads that weave a life worth living. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said that life is not a problem to be solved, but a reality to be experienced. And isn't that what these small moments remind us? We're not just machines chasing productivity, but rather we are beings experiencing the beauty in this life. But here is something to think about. What if the most important moments in your life are the ones that never make it on social media? What if your legacy is not in grand achievements, but how you make people feel in those quiet, uncelebrated moments? Maybe the secret to a beautiful life is not in chasing the extraordinary, but in savoring the ordinary. So what if your ordinary life is already enough? You see, the world will keep pushing you to do more, to be more, to chase more. But maybe, just maybe, the greatest freedom comes from choosing to love the life that you already have right now. What if the joy that you've been searching for has been with you all along? Imagine waking up every day and knowing that the little, simple, everyday moments are where life truly happens. So I challenge you, friends, look around. Notice the beauty in your ordinary world, because when you do, life itself becomes extraordinary. But before you go, ask yourself one more question. If your ordinary life has the power to change the world, what would you do with it? If this message speaks to you, take a moment to share it with somebody who needs to hear this today. Hit that like button, and if you want more stories that inspire and uplift you, don't forget to subscribe. We have a lot more to explore together. Until next time, don't forget the power of your ordinary. Because one day you might just realize it was extraordinary all along.